Hi, everyone. Welcome into Red Cedar Radar. Real quick, before we get started, we are going to take you through what we are going to talk about in this episode.
Yeah, so today we kind of have a little bit of an introduction into Spartans Illustrated, our new site under therivals.com. Kind of give you an inside scoop about different things you can expect if you subscribe. The second thing we'll talk about is Michigan State basketball, their recent games with Notre Dame and Northwestern, and kind of give our opinions looking ahead to the rest of the season. And then lastly, we'll have on a guest today. Ryan Oblenis is a member of our team. He's been writing about MSU sports for a while, and we're going to interview him a little bit about MSU recruiting and some transfer portal stuff.
Cool. So we cannot wait to get started with you. Without further ado, let's get started. Welcome in, everyone, to Red Cedar Radar. My name is Brad, and I'm here with Sydney. Sydney, I need to talk. Actually, I would like to have a shout out. Actually, that's where I kind of want to go. I would like to shout out the Michigan Daily, actually, for their astounding coverage as seemingly being the only outlet in the state of Michigan that can think critically of the University of Michigan.
Yeah, I read that. Twitter has been insane.
Yeah, with the Mozzie Smith stuff.
Yeah.
And like it doesn't even go. It's just every single time it bugs me so much. And I don't want to go on my harp. There are so many other people that you can listen to that have the same opinions probably as me, I don't want to dive into a shit ton of that because we could save that for another day. But it doesn't stop with Mozzie Smith. It goes with Mel Pearson in the hockey program. It goes with what happened before. Harbaugh's always just, kind of been that sort of person who is sort of tries to victimize his own players and then, goes into just everyone else but me sort of deal.
Yeah, seemingly
like
always blaming the refs, always blaming the weather.
Right.
It's just a trait of theirs. And something that came to mind when you were saying that was the whole Xavier Simpson thing with crashing the car and then pretending to be Jeff Jackson and, I could go on and on about Michigan and Michigan fans, but let's talk about Michigan State because I like that a lot better.
Right. So exciting news, actually. This is our second episode, right? So obviously that's fun. That's exciting, right? But this is technically the first episode that we're recording since the site launch of Spartans Illustrated. So
yes.
If you guys don't know, go over there, SpartansIllustrated.com. Right now, actually, there is a promo deal going on where you can get an entire month for free, see what we're doing, see what we're about, see all of the premium content from recruiting news and more. Chase Glasser, who was on the last episode of the podcast, has an incredible article out right now about Michigan and just the irony of it is just everything is just amazing. A lot of our subscribers have told us that it's good, so I would recommend going and checking that out. Go ahead and use the promo code Spartans30 and get 30 days for free. That is my one plug of the day.
That's perfect. It's a perfect plug. Just to kind of go on this topic a little bit more, and then we'll talk about basketball. I have a lot to say about basketball, but do you want to just kind of talk about Spartans Illustrated and what some of the plans are for the site and what users can expect if they subscribe, just to give them a little taste?
Yeah, so it's really exciting, and if you've heard about me before, you know that I'm the lead hockey writer on the site. The most interesting thing, though, that I'm kind of taken up is the addition of audio and video content like you're seeing right here, right? So if you're viewing this on YouTube, you can go ahead and subscribe, and you will get access to the press conferences that we cover. You'll get access to, some reaction videos. I know Justin Rose is, has a lot of things in the works that he's going to be working on. It's very exciting stuff. So I've sort of gone ahead and amplified that, that realm, that those video and audio things. It's exciting. So we'll have like post game stuff too. Like if for example, if two of us go cover a game, I'll bring a camera and stuff, and we'll get like I know Spartan Mag does these VCasts, very, very similar, a little bit more emphasis on the post-production element of it, and they'll be a little bit more quick hitting. So definitely excited for that sort of stuff. But the main aspect of our site is really just recruiting news, just MSU in general, all encompassing of the university. So that goes, anything from football, basketball. Then we're also touching on, women's soccer, and the incredible season that they just had. Stuff like that, hockey, obviously, just all the sports in general. And then we're also getting into in-depth football, basketball, and hockey analysis. And we'll be announcing our lead recruiting writer very soon. So
yeah, soon.
It's all exciting, very exciting stuff. And we cannot be more excited to bring it to you. And I mean, if you again go over to the site, you can check out the forums. Again, Spartans30 is the promo code, and you can see all the MSU guys that you want to chit chat with or whatever. It's really honestly incredible, because if you think Twitter's an exciting place to be, I really think that our site is valuable too, in the sense of it being an online forum, of it being a space that is all very, very, very exciting. What are your thoughts?
I find the forums to be exciting and sometimes a little scary, because they get kind of intense on there. But I like that because I get a little intense sometimes too. I found myself, don't tell my professors this, but I found myself in class today scrolling through the premium forum like, this is
I'm
interesting.
Always doing that. That's
I know,
no problem.
I know. Just don't tell them I said that. Anyways, another thing that I wanted to plug, and then we'll get right on to basketball, but I started an Instagram for us, Spartans Illustrated on Instagram. Follow it. There'll be some specific things that are just for the Instagram, but then a lot of overlapping content from the Twitter and our site and here. It's slowly gaining followers, but Instagram is kind of a new realm that we're entering into, and I'm adding some fun and exciting things there, so give it a follow if you want.
Perfect. We will do that. And Sydney, real quick, we are going to take a quick break because we have a message from our partner, and we'll be right back. Today's episode is sponsored by Nudge Printing, owned and operated by two Michigan State alums, Gabe and Brittany.
Nudge prints all their apparel in mid-Michigan. In addition to being licensed by Michigan State, they also have collegiate licenses for several universities, including Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan, and many more.
Nudge sells polos, hoodies, jackets, car decals, t-shirts, you name it. They even have a decal for cornhole boards. So Sydney, which Nudge shirt are you wearing today?
I have on, it's called the Vintage State Cursive Script t-shirt, and I have to say, I really like it. It's nice and soft, and I'm a big soft t-shirt person, so it has my vote 100%.
I'm in the Michigan State. It's very fitting, actually, very fitting. And I don't just mean that it fits me well. No, it's very fitting because it's the Michigan State hockey logo t-shirt. So it's good. My wife approves of it, so I put it on.
Good deal.
And she was happy. So
that's all that matters.
Exactly. So
right now, Nudge Printing is offering $10 off of any Michigan State t-shirt. The coupon code is TRYUS, and it ends on December 31st. That is TRYUS all caps, all one word, to get $10 off any Michigan State t-shirt.
Just head to the show notes on YouTube or your podcast platform, wherever you're listening, for the link. Or head to nudgeprinting.com. That is nudgeprinting.com. All right, let's talk MSU basketball.
Okay.
Tough subject.
I know.
But that's on the board today. So let's do it.
I have a lot to say. So MSU currently, we're recording on Tuesday, December 6th. MSU currently sits at 5-4. Coming off some pretty tough games that I have a lot of notes on. Based off that record, do you have anything just off the top of your head to say before I get into breaking down the Notre Dame and the Northwestern game?
No, I think I'll get into a couple things. Like I don't feel as I think it's with the basketball season, there's a lot more room for error, right? Mm-hmm. So
yeah, you said that. Mm-hmm.
So me trusting Izzo is a lot. I find it easier to do, right? Like with football, it's like one loss and you're like, not this again, sort of deal. Whereas with basketball, you can kind of like, okay, fine. Like at least there is still time for Michigan State to turn it around, right? Like Absolutely. At least there is still that time. But yeah, just dive into it and I will get into share my thoughts along the way.
Perfect. Okay, so let's start with Notre Dame. So MSU travels to Notre Dame, and like I have written in our little document here, they literally just got punched in the face. They started slow and ended slow and played the whole game slow. They never caught up to where Notre Dame was with their energy and with their shooting. Izzo talked about, maybe they're tired, they had a red eye. I don't really use that as my excuse. I just think they were overall outplayed in every aspect of the game. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think that Notre Dame just wanted the game more.
Absolutely.
Like I don't think of the losses that Michigan State has had so far, with the exception of Gonzaga, okay? Now even Gonzaga, actually, I think of the losses that Michigan State has had so far, this one seems like it is the most warranted, right? So this one, if Michigan State could be theoretically, and this is maybe just me, but Michigan State could theoretically be undefeated besides this game, because I think that this is the one game where it sort of makes sense to be down, right?
They didn't compete.
Right, exactly. Because you just came back from the Phil Knight Invitational, bunch of tired guys, cross country sort of deal. I think that they could have won the Alabama game if they wanted to. I think that that's my first note. And then secondly, they should have won against Gonzaga.
Yeah.
Because, that game, it is what it is. And how that game went, right? We're going to excuse it. It's Gonzaga, whatever. But at the same time, they should have won that game. So it's like a gut punch. And so I think that of the losses, though, this Notre Dame one wasn't actually that bad, because I thought that Notre Dame played very good defense, and that's sort of what held MSU off the board.
Yeah. Cormac Ryan on Notre Dame's team couldn't miss to save his life. He was on the whole time. Shot 5, I think it was 5 for 5. He didn't miss. And we couldn't answer back. The Spartans couldn't answer back. So I don't ever like to say anything bad about Izzo, because he's my main number one man, Izzo. But I have to say,
I got his number if you want to call him.
Not right now, because I'm about to say something kind of mean.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, you don't want to tell
Not
him
actually mean, but why did he wait so long to call a timeout? I know he gives them a lot of time to figure it out themselves, which I like, but Everyone says he's so good out of the huddle. Every time on TV, they take a timeout. And he's drawn up a play. The announcers are like, oh, Tom Izzo is one of the best coaches out of timeout. Like, he draws up the best plays. Why did he wait so long to call a timeout if he is such a great guy right out of the huddle? I see great things from him out of the huddle.
He doesn't know when to call the huddle. Maybe that's what it is. He doesn't know when to call. He doesn't. He asked Mr. Mel for advice, or even I don't know. It was
Mr. Mel.
Yeah, he called Mel up and he was like, "Listen, I need advice when I should call timeout." I think I'm calling him a little too on time. I think I should delay him a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
That was something that I thought that was controllable, that they could have handled better. Obviously, you can't handle how Cormac Ryan is playing other than, to put a hand up in his face and stop some of those shots. But you can't stop the ball from going in the net if he's shooting like he was. But you can control when you take a timeout and reset the team. That was just something that I thought could have been handled better, other than just playing better, because they didn't play very good. Yeah, that was just my one note that I was kind of like, man, that could have been cleaned up. Last note about Notre Dame, and then we'll talk about Northwestern, which isn't going to be any better, but it was at least a different topic. Hogard led the Spartans in scoring. We'll talk about this again with the Northwestern game, but Hogard should not be our leading scorer. He is a facilitator. He should run the court, and that is something he's very good at. So why is he our leading scorer? That means that other guys were not doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is, scoring more baskets, like Walker and Hauser and some of those other guys that have been, up until very recently, pretty consistent with doing some of that.
Yeah, you're asking the questions, and I don't know that I have the answer.
It's okay. That was more of a statement. I just feel with
that's
the
tough.
end game stats, Hogard shouldn't be our leading scorer. It's great that he is. I don't mind if he's going to play out of his mind. But that leaves me noticing that other guys aren't doing what they normally do, which is outscoring Hogard and letting him be more of a facilitator up at the top.
Yeah, I think, and it's hard because at this point, I know last time we talked, were Hall and Akins really the glue that holds this team together? And I feel like at this point we're sort of past that, right? Like I know this team misses Hall, and we probably will touch on that a little bit more. But at the same time, there needs to be more grit. There needs to be a little bit more toughness in some of these games.
That leads right into the Northwestern thing. Again, you're so good at knowing what I'm about to say next. So let's talk
It's almost like you wrote it down.
Oh my gosh, you read it beforehand. Anyways.
Yeah.
I was trying to give you a compliment and you just passed it off. Whatever. Okay. Anyways. So a stat before we talk about the game specifically. This is the first time that Northwestern has had back-to-back wins against Michigan State since the year 1962. I was not even a thought on this earth in 1962.
When were your parents born? My dad was not thought of in 1962.
I'm just saying, the fact that this is the first time since then is crazy, and it should never have happened. But let's talk about why it did happen. My dad was born. Yeah. I know. So, Northwestern, coming off a recent loss to, in my opinion, a not very good Pitt team. Pitt beat them 87-58. And then they come into East Lansing. Boo Booey comes into East Lansing and absolutely drops one of his best games on them. They call him a Spartan killer, and that's exactly what he is. Boo Booey has been playing at Northwestern, I think, for about 8,000 years. And I'm tired of him, but I have to say he really holds their team together over there. He is quite the leader for them. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, he mentioned in post game too, something about playing in Spartan Stadium players just have their arenas that they're comfortable in, and I think that I don't know. I've never been to Northwestern's stadium, but I can't imagine that it's anything as loud as the Izzone and Michigan State.
I would say probably not.
Right. So I think that certain players like that probably do well in environments like that because, again, it's a loud environment. It's an amped up atmosphere. You get hyped up, you start performing better, and that's just the general vibe, I guess. So maybe we should have just depleted the Izzone and just had it, nobody there.
A game of silence. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's funny. My next point, before the game started, it was announced that AJ Hoggard was gonna be starting on the bench and subbing in. Izzo, you mentioned to me in his pregame radio show, talked about Hoggard needing to take care of the ball better, and so that was the motivation in him starting on the bench. What's your opinion of Hoggard starting on the bench, and what did you see from him?
Well, so there's a couple reasons why this happened, and it was, yes, because Hoggard needed to take better control of the ball. In the post game, Izzo actually mentioned that he wasn't doing what Izzo needed him to do, being Hoggard as a point guard, right? So that was a little bit I think it's good. Obviously, you like to see that sort of thing when coaches are holding their players accountable, right? Like you like to see that. The only sport where it doesn't really work is if it's like your quarterback, and I mean, you take a drastic fall but that's just not the same sport. I mean, the same thing happened with MSU hockey a couple of weeks ago, though, when Jagger Joshua, one of the team's leading point scorers, ended up he was actually scratched from the whole game because in hockey you can't, once you dress 18 guys, you can't mix them up, you can't put more than 18 guys on the ice. So Jagger Joshua was one of the 4 or 5 or 6 that was scratched from the game, and Nightingale, I really like that, right? Like Nightingale said, hey, man, you're taking too many penalties. That was the gist, right? So Izzo does the same thing here in the sense of you're not taking better care of the ball, too many turnovers, et cetera, right? So that's good to see. And I think that it sort of lit a fire under him in the way that he performed. Izzo even said too after the game that, he was the only guy that really played with the toughness that this team needed. So yeah, I think that it was good for the team. I don't necessarily think that the team followed that up with anything. So,
yeah, I agree. I ranted a little bit about Hoggard in our last episode, and I kind of talked about his maturity and some things that I was hoping would change. And I think you're exactly right. Izzo holding him accountable for some of those things that we've been noticing, some of those body language issues and some things I've seen on defense that I hate from him. I think this was the best thing for him. And like you said, he led the team with 12 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists. And maybe that's a place that he needed to be put in, to be a little bit uncomfortable and have Izzo kind of, like we talked about with football, having those competitions for those starting spots is good. And I like that from Izzo.
Did you say 12 points and he led the team?
Yeah.
It's so embarrassing. My God.
I know.
Jesus.
Like I said, just with the Notre Dame game, AJ should not be our leading scorer. Because there are guys on our team that can produce way more
shoot,
than that. Right.
Yeah. So, my God. That's tough. Yeah. I did want to mention one thing before I forget.
Keep going.
Because I think that, the loss to Northwestern wasn't great, right? Mm-hmm. But I do think that Izzo has a point in when he said, and I agree with this, when he says that the combination of his schedule timing, not the difficulty. He made it a point to say that the difficulty was fine. Just the timing of the schedule wasn't great. I mean, look at this team. They they come right off of a loss to Northwestern, right? They just played Northwestern Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Izzo didn't even give media members, and this is, again, a lot of the media wasn't upset by this, but he didn't even give them player availability because their players did not have enough practice time in order to maximize that time. So you're getting a lot of guys who aren't seeing the practices that they need. And I think someone said that they only had 12 practices or something in an extended period of time, and it's just like it's not enough for the team. So again, the timing of the schedule, the difficulty of the schedule doesn't help, but it prepares you. But if you're constantly going from game to game to game every single time, where's the break? Not only do you need time to practice, you need time to sleep, you need time to eat. Where are you going to do that? You see what I'm saying? These kids are not accustomed yet to what you might see in the NBA, or an NHL player might see, an NFL player might see. It's not they're elite. This is elite level talent, but at the same time, Penn State just came off of whatever game they came off of. They have extended rest to prepare for Michigan State, and Michigan State again has to hit the road tomorrow. Right now they're hitting the road right now as we speak, and then for Penn State on Wednesday night. So I think that it's a combination of factors, and then once you put the injuries into all of that, I think that you're just not going to get a feasible product. And so Izzo, again, he doesn't like to make excuses, but really it does come down to that, because without the injuries, this would already be a very difficult stretch for them.
Yes, I agree 100%. He gave an interview that said something along the lines of, our players are, to be honest with you, dead. And what I kind of wanted to say was well, no duh. Anyone would be after that huge Invitational, flying back, having to play Notre Dame, and then having a game at home, and then immediately going to Penn State. It's too much. And I wrote this on our little document. I like the idea. I love the idea of the heavy non-conference schedule, because that's an Izzo thing. That's a gritty thing to have a huge schedule like that. That's something he likes. And I'm a fan and I like watching it. But you have to be a little realistic with the timeline of things, just like you said. That summed it up perfectly.
Something else that he mentioned too, and I find this very interesting. So they only make the schedule at a certain time, right? When they're scheduling things out. And if MSU, for example, agrees to be a part of an event, right? So take the ACC Big Ten Invitational, for example. If in that invite, you have to take off 3 days out of your schedule, right? And you could, right? So say you have X, Y, and Z, right? You have X, Y, and Z on your schedule. You have to free those days up. So you can't do anything. You can't schedule practices. You can't schedule other games. You have to take X, Y, and Z. Okay. So you have those, that's your window. Now, they could schedule you, and again, they don't do this until later, but they could schedule you the first day, they could schedule the second or the third day, right? So if they schedule you the first day, now if you have a game on the back end of X, you can't, that sucks for you. And that's essentially what kind of happens, right? Is that you either get a game that's super close to the beginning of the Invitational or super close to the end of the Invitational.
Right.
And that sort of becomes the problem. And it's kind of the same thing with the Phil Knight Invitational, in the sense that you have to sort of block off these games, your schedule for these games. And then it's sort of not necessarily that clear when it comes to what you want to do with the rest of the schedule outside of that.
Yes. I just think it was poor planning to not expect that these guys would need some rest. I feel like that sums it up. I just am a little disappointed in that. So the last thing that I want to say about the Northwestern game is that there's one positive point, that Jaden Akins is back playing. I didn't see him out there playing like his old self, but it's very promising to see him back out on the court, at least in any capacity. That's better than where he has been on the bench.
Yeah, I think something that was interesting or notable was that he wasn't what's the word? Like 100%. I know that you said that, and some people noticed that he was like hobbled. Looked like he just wasn't conditioned, right?
Yeah.
So like that seemed like that was more of the problem, is that he wasn't conditioned to compete at this level yet. It's not a foot issue. It's just like he's just gassed, So maybe he's gonna have shorter times on the court. Can't be out there for more than like 15 minutes a game, sort of deal. But at least he is back, and I mean, Izzo will likely just have to use him strategically.
Yeah, and I think it will just be a rebuilding process for him to get back up to where he was after having all of those games off. MSU, like we've already touched on, takes on Penn State on the road Wednesday, December 7th at 6:30 p.m. Just as a side note, it'll air on Big Ten Network. I think this is an 1,000,000,000% must-win game. Starting Big Ten play 0-2 is such a bad look. Bad look for the team, bad for morale, and also bad for me because I don't like it when the Spartans lose. So, and that's the most important part.
Of course, right.
Right,
well,
right.
Yeah, of course.
That's why we're here, to talk about me, right?
Exactly.
Anyways, so what do you think MSU has to do to beat Penn State?
It's kind of tough. So Michigan State's got to be tougher. I think that's number one. They've got to be the more physical team. They've got to shoot the ball better. I think that their offense has been spotty at times. I think that Penn State's a good team. First off, I mean, it's gonna be tough to beat them. Right now, Michigan State's an underdog, right? They're at -4 or +4, I should say.
+4.
And so that's tough, right? So it's at Penn State, and winning a Big Ten road game is hard in any capacity. I think right now the biggest issue for Michigan State is that they have such a big brand. So, for programs like Penn State who don't have a big basketball brand like Northwestern, these are meaningful games for them, right? So it's almost like Michigan State has this target on their back, yet Michigan State doesn't have the talent to back it up. So for Penn State, this is still a very meaningful game, even if, it's not just another game because it's Michigan State, right? Like it would be like playing Duke on a bad year, It's again, like playing Michigan State, it's a big basketball brand. So it's a big deal to them. And it was to Northwestern. And that's kind of why you see a lot of teams play Michigan State with grit and with toughness, because they need to. That's their MO, right? Like Michigan State has this thing, about them. It's the same thing with Michigan football, Michigan's a big football brand. Michigan State's a big basketball brand, so you're going to get that. So that's the issue. Upcoming, I don't know that Michigan State can win, though. That's, I think, that's where I'm at right now. If I had to guess, I don't think that either team scores more than 70 points, but at the same time, I don't really see Michigan. I think if I had to guess, this game will go very similar to what the Northwestern game was like.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. That's not one that I'm mentally or physically ready to hold on to. I'm going to still hold on to hope that they can turn it around and that Izzo has just an amazing plan to go to Penn State and knock it out of the park. But you might be right.
Yeah. The good news for Michigan State, though, is that after this, they play Brown. And after that, they play Oakland. So that's the good news, right? They just got to – and Izzo said, too, that after the mentality right now is just get through this game. And then you're on to, and then it's like a free sale, right? Because not only do you have exam week, you have just a lot of time in between that. So
yeah,
that's the good
so
news.
they play Brown at home on December 10th, just to give some dates. Brown is currently sitting the same record as us, so we'll see how that goes.
I don't think that's you can't compare
it doesn't matter,
them,
of course,
you know?
of course. But you just never know with this team in Spartan basketball. And then you have Oakland. And something I wanted to mention about Oakland, they're currently 2-8, so not that great of a season. But they have one win over Eastern Michigan, who I don't know, he's not our enemy, our friend, maybe, I don't know.
Frenemy.
Amani Bates, plays at.
Right.
I heard that was an amazing game. Oakland beat them 92-90, so no defense. No one played defense. Everyone played offense the whole time. But, an unmentionable win for them. But both of those, as you said, should be nice wins at home.
Yeah, I think the hard part about the Northwestern game, right, was that there was like a time frame where neither team like scored for like 3 minutes or something like that, right? Like, so that's where I'm at. Like, I don't think that Michigan State should have even been in a close game with Northwestern, but I do think that Michigan State had every opportunity to win that game because I didn't think that Northwestern was playing incredible defense, and I'm not I'm not the type of guy who's going to analyze basketball as if I'm an expert, but it did not seem like, Northwestern was rebounding well. It seemed they were doing all of those types of stuff correctly, but at the same time, like when neither team scores for 3 points, it's for 3 minutes. I mean, it's not like it felt like Northwestern was trying to hand the game to Michigan State, and Michigan State was like, nah, you take it,
Yeah.
So that's kind of the vibe that I got from the game.
Yeah, I just feel like stagnant play in the Notre Dame game and, just that we saw in Northwestern. Like, they don't want to be there.
Right.
And they're not able to put it together just like how they did a couple games ago. I don't know.
It's inconsistent too. Like it's like they're playing for like they need to play for 40 minutes and they're not doing that,
Right. Yeah, I agree. There's something missing there, and maybe it is truly, the injuries.
I think it is because timing. Malik Hall, like you talk about this defense and some of the let's just take away from the fact that Malik Hall is an excellent shooter and creates a lot of offense. Let's take that away, right? Malik Hall is missing on defense. I think that he is, like Izzo said, and I know people are going to have problems with this because Izzo doesn't like the transfer portal, and we all know that, right? But Izzo at one point in one press conference had said something yada yada yada. We don't have we have guys that can shoot, we have guys that can guard, but we don't have guys that can do both. Then people were like, "Oh, well, why didn't you do that? Go out and get guys that can do both." Well, I think Malik Hall is your guy. And I think that, I don't know. I mean, Akins is out there like hobbled too. Not hobbled, but he's just gassed. It just feels like he's not 100% yet. And Izzo said that it won't be 2 weeks until he's at 100%. So hard to say where this team's going.
One last thing that kind of goes with this conversation about being tired and injuries. In the Northwestern game, Joey had to play 30. I mean, Joey, I say it like we're friends. Hauser had to play.
You are, aren't you?
I wish. 38 minutes. He had to play all the same games as everyone else. He had to take the same red-eye flight as everyone else. So I can't imagine how much pressure that is on him and how tired he must be after all of this weight is added to him while other people are underperforming. It just seems to be kind of being stacked on Hauser a little bit.
Well, and it also goes to say with the practice schedule, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of guys on this team that need to be developed, right? So I mean,
Right.
you talk about Madi Sissoko,
Mm-hmm.
Pierre Brooks. I mean, these are guys who were only playing a few minutes a game last year.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's not, like Pierre Brooks is now getting like 20, 30 minutes a game.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a big step up for him. It's not that he's a bad player. This is just he needs to fill into these roles. And
Yeah.
I don't think, and Izzo mentioned it himself, like he takes full blame. Like it isn't the player's fault that they're not developing, because it is the coach's responsibility to do that, and he's
Mm-hmm.
not getting that time to do that.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So
Yeah. I have my fingers crossed for a win at Penn State, but you might be correct. It might just be another of the same. Me yelling at the TV.
What you could do is bet money on it, and then if they lose, you always win. You just vote for one and vote against them. Like, you know, yeah, I don't know. Bet
I
against them.
never bet on MSU sports because
Yeah.
it's bad if you bet against them. I would never. And if you
Mm-hmm.
bet for them, that's bad juju. I'm superstitious, Brad.
Mm-hmm.
You'll learn this about
Well,
me.
if you bet for them and they lose, that's a lose-lose situation. That's why you do. That's
Just
why you
don't
do
ever
the
do
opposite.
it.
You just bet
No.
against them.
And if you bet against them, then you're a terrible person.
Well, you're winning either way. So you either get money or
No.
your team wins, and you lose money. So
You know how you said last episode, you never argue with me. This is a hill that I will die on. I will never
okay.
bet against the Spartans. And maybe that's,
Okay.
maybe that's a toxic trait of mine, but we'll leave that one alone.
Okay.
Ryan, I wanted you to kind of give a little bit of a background on Spartans Illustrated and your role here on the site, and then talk a little bit about your history writing for MSU Athletics, because I think you've been doing that for a little while now.
Yeah, that's correct. So I've, as far as Spartan Illustrated is concerned, a lot of us came over from the Only Colors. Rivals approached David Harms, who is our publisher and owner of Spartans Illustrated, about taking over for the previous site, Spartan Mag, that moved on. And, he had some conversations over there with those, with the higher ups over there at Rivals and Yahoo. And then he started talking to me. I was, I think, one of the first people he reached out to kind of want to, see this vision through, to bring the Only Colors team and bring coverage to Rivals, where we would have, a bigger budget, more resources, more, help with the team, and more features and things of that nature that we're able to do. So, that kind of was going on behind the scenes for, a little while, a few weeks. And then, as of December 1st, the site switched over, due to some contractual obligations. Nobody was able to say anything on either side. So, a lot of the subscribers didn't know what was going on. But, I think that our team handled it really well. I think, obviously people were a little surprised, and because that'll catch somebody off guard, like, I totally understand that. And, but, it seems like people are starting to enjoy our content and the way that we do it. And, we have tremendous respect for the last site that was here. But we're going to do things, a little bit differently our way. I think they did a great job. But, I think that we bring a little bit different element to this. And, I think that we're really just, only a few days deep into this. And, we're really going to start ramping things up here and going to be able to, do some things that I think people are looking for. We're just kind of finding our footing, and, people can just be a little patient for us. We'd appreciate it, but, we're getting there, and I think we're going to do something pretty special here. And, as far as me covering Michigan State, I've been doing that for about 3 years as a credentialed media person. I've been writing about Michigan State with the Only Colors and other sites for about 5 years, kind of just grinding away on the side. And, building up some connections and learning the ropes of everything, and covering games, doing interviews, going to press conferences, talking to players, recruits, the whole thing. So I'm excited to kind of, bring all that experience here and do, and really raise up the level of what we're able to do here. So should be fun.
Yeah, I
it
think
should
it's gonna be incredible, especially since I don't know if anyone listening to or was paying attention to the rival site, but at the Only Colors, also obviously message board forum, same kind of deal there. They had tremendous respect for not only you, Ryan, but just the whole team in general and the coverage that we sort of provided.
Yeah, we really
were sad to see us go.
And so I think I'm not sure how quick it'll be, but I think that within time, I think that we will not only surprise the people who were or are still subscribers, but also hopefully win over some new folks and build our own stuff from there. So
to kind of go into my next question, expanding off just like the basics of the site and kind of your history, one of your roles now at Spartans Illustrated is reporting on some different recruiting stuff. So I wanted to kind of get just your overall opinion on recruiting trends and what recruiting is looking like now under Mel Tucker's reign as the head coach here at MSU.
A lot different than the Mark D'Antonio days, but also you have to keep in mind that recruiting has changed a lot too, because now you have NIL stuff. You have transfer portal coming in and out that kind of messes with how you formulate your roster, and that affects your high school recruiting numbers too. But with Tucker versus D'Antonio, I think D'Antonio was he went for more of the regional type recruits and more of the, you might say, diamonds in the rough. And he would recruit Ohio and Michigan and these areas pretty well, but he didn't take that big of a national approach that Mel Tucker does. Tucker and his staff, with Saeed Khalif and the other people who are there leading MSU's recruiting charges, they're trying to build a national footprint, and they're not afraid to offer 5 stars in Texas or Louisiana or California or wherever they may be. If they see a prospect who they think matches, first of all, their culture at Michigan State, and second of all, they think they can help them on the field, then that they're going to go after those players. And with D'Antonio, and you didn't necessarily see that big of a reach nationally, and then on official visits, you saw it last summer. Tucker has the recruits posing with cars and doing some flashy things that you might have never seen under D'Antonio. So there are obviously a lot of differences there, but at the end of the day, the goal remains the same, and that's to add the players that they think are going to help them win in the future and eventually help them compete with the Michigans and Ohio States and win the Big Ten championship.
I think you're absolutely right. Things are way different, and I know for sure that Coach D would never pose in front of a car parked on the grass in Spartan Stadium. Yeah. So that you're right. It's definitely different, but I think it had to change to keep up with the times and how recruiting is becoming more of a national scene if you want to compete. I agree.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting, and you guys are absolutely right. It's I think honestly, like I have my confidence level right now. I know a lot of people with the season wasn't, obviously the season wasn't great. It was 5-7. And with that, a lot of people I feel like lost a lot of faith in Mel Tucker because it's not as glamorous as it was 12 months ago. But I don't think that that's changed, and my confidence level is probably at an 8. I guess the better way to phrase it would be that my concern level is at a 2. I am not worried at all, assuming that Mel Tucker makes the right decisions in the staff that he hires, stuff like that. But you guys are right too. Is in the more interesting stuff is that the recruiting landscape is changing so much with both NIL and not only that, but also the transfer portal. So Ryan, can you kind of give us some insight on that as far as where MSU is at? They're not going to find a guy like Kenneth Walker III every time, but do you think that MSU can get higher returns than they received last season?
Yeah, I think that, there's still the transfer portal is always going to be a bit risky, right? Because you don't know how that player is going to, come into your offense or your defense or your culture. And, to MSU's credit, I don't think that any of the transfers that they, took last year or the year before, I think they were all really good culture fits. They didn't all work out on the field, but, your hit rate in the transfer portal, it might be under a bit more scrutiny than it is, for high school rankings, because when you take a player who's already proven, you expect a little bit more out of them. But I don't necessarily know that the hit rate's any different than, how many kids end up panning out from a high school class. So I think that with the transfer portal, Michigan State's already shown that they, are successful there. And if you're a kid who wants to enter the transfer portal, you can look at success stories like Kenneth Walker if you're a running back, or Jacoby Windman if you're a linebacker or defensive end, and a few others who came in and got a lot of playing time, found immediate roles either as a starter or as a contributor. I don't think that Michigan State, it doesn't appear that as many kids have transferred out. It's early on so far. We're only a couple days deep since the transfer portal window opened, but I think, me personally, I expected a few more names by now, and I think a lot of other people did too. And there'll still be more names to come that'll enter from now until January, then after spring as well. But I think that Michigan State is going to do what they've done the last 2 years, and they're going to identify the talent and the culture fit and the scheme fit, and those players are going. Maybe they'll get. If I had to guess, I would say it's probably going to end up being less than 10 transfer portal additions. I don't know for sure. It could end up being more or less or right around that number. That's kind of how I see it. That they still have some roster math to do to get down to the numbers and bring in, how many high school recruits plus transfer portal, additions that they want. But, yeah, I mean, it's hard to say who is going to end up, coming to Michigan State. There's already been a couple who have announced that they're taking official visits to Michigan State, and that bodes well for MSU. But it's very early on in the process. Those players can end up taking visits elsewhere, but to more or less, I do think that Michigan State is going to be a net positive in the portal and find another. At least a couple of players that are able to come in and contribute or start next year.
So to kind of go off of that, so you have a number in mind of what you're thinking, but obviously, like you said, you can never predict for sure with the transfer portal stuff. It's kind of just a wait and see. Just like a general question about the team as a whole moving into next year. I just want your opinions on what you think will happen next year as far as like if the team will be better, if we'll remain about the same, and like maybe some hopes that you have for next season, just to kind of wrap it up here. Predictions and hopes for football season next year with Mel, and kind of talk to me a little bit about not even with recruits or transfers coming in, like what needs to change at MSU with the football team.
Well, it can't get much worse, right? I mean, it can, but when, Mel Tucker is making the amount of money that you want, the minimum expectation needs to be a bowl game, at very minimum. So, I think that needs to be the goal next year, at least 6 wins, but probably closer to 7 or 8. And it does depend who they bring in. It does depend on if Tucker plans to make any staff changes, and if he does, which coaches will he target and will he bring in? There are certain position coaches, or I don't think the coordinators are going anywhere, but Tucker made changes to his staff last year, and it could very well happen again this year. I'm not going to make any predictions on that. We'll see, but there needs to be improvements across the board. First of all, the injuries played a huge role in this season. I mean, the team was just decimated, especially on defense, right? So I don't know. A lot of those are out of your control, but I don't know if there's anything that needs to be done differently from a strength and conditioning or training standpoint to kind of prevent some of those. And other than that, I think, like we said, you have to get your guys in the recruiting class. Early signing days coming up. You have to, lock in the 12 commits that you have now. There's going to be probably a few more before then. But then, the other signing day in February, you have to make sure your class is finalized by then. You have to get your portal players that you want locked in, get, the early enrollees that both transfers and recruits come in and, get an early start. And Mel Tucker's showing that he's not afraid to play freshmen if they're the best player at the position. So I think what you need is competition at every position, and that's what Tucker preaches. The best player plays. That might even include the quarterback position in spring. So we'll see. I mean, I think that there's going to need to be significant changes in all of those areas if MSU is going to improve. And Tucker is a relentless worker, and his staff is, going to do all the things that are needed to get there. We'll have to see how it pans out, but yeah, I mean, I definitely expect an improvement next year.
Yeah, so do I. I know, a lot of people like to reference D'Antonio going, 6 wins, something like that, mid-range wins, in his third season. And I don't even count, a lot of people subscribe to year 0, right? Tucker was hired and boom, COVID. You know what I mean? You can't, that's in my opinion, the third year thing, just sometimes, in a way, it's not really that fair, technically it's his third year, but, he doesn't, I think that he should get the benefit of the doubt, in my opinion, sort of deal. But anyway, what's that?
I was saying that, yeah, I think that, it's easy to forget because of 2021 success that this team is still in a rebuild. And, a lot of the players that Tucker has had for the past 3 years were D'Antonio holdovers and lower recruiting classes. And, he's starting to get the roster up to where it's mostly his guys now. So, I think next year is very important to show success.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm on the right now I'm on board with anything that is less than, more than 8 wins. Sorry, we just lost Sydney somehow, so that's kind of a mess. We were about to wrap up the show anyway, but we'll deal with that. Yeah. So I'm gonna get Sydney back on board, and we're gonna wrap up real quick. Thank you for listening. We weren't gonna talk about hockey today, but I will say this: it is Hate Week at Munn Ice Arena. On Friday night, Michigan State takes on Michigan, and it is going to be exciting. And then they take on Michigan again the next day at Yost in Ann Arbor. So very exciting stuff if you want to come out and be a part of the fun, because that's where we will be. I'll be at both games. So see you there.
Super exciting. All right. Well, I think this episode was great, and I hope that when we come back next time, we'll be talking about MSU hockey wins, and we'll be talking about an MSU basketball win or two. How does that sound?
Right. Hopefully, at some point. Yeah, it's a sad. Sometimes it's so sad for Michigan State, Michigan State sports.
I know. I know. It was lovely talking with you this evening, and it was lovely talking to our guest Ryan. About some different things happening at Spartans Illustrated, and we hope to have some more guests on for you soon to talk about some more exciting stuff.
Absolutely. We will see you guys again in the next one.
Bye.